Hey y'all, it's Alicia and welcome back to Alicia's Crafty Hoplop and design team project number 2 for Inlovearts. Now this die I hauled for the shabby folks, the shabby and vintage folks in our community. But I actually want to show you I used it 4 different ways. And one of the ways that I created a project is actually more in a clean and simple style. So it's not just for our shabby friends. Let me remind you what the die looks like first of all. And remember what I said I loved about this die, and you're going to see how it worked, is that, okay, it looks great like this. It looks great turned on its side, so you can use it many different ways. And I remember, if you recall, it came with a little bookend piece too, like the book corners, which I thought was a nice bonus. Unlike the one that I got in my alley haul today, all the holes are even, folks, and there's a nice divot in each. So I knew this was going to cut out very well, but I sure did test it on almost everything. I'm going to show you tonight. I used it on 65-pound cardstock. I used it on my heaviest holographic, which I think is over 300 GSM, and it cut through that. The only item that it had a little trouble with, believe it or not, were my thin Trader Joe boxes, which is much thinner than my holographic cardstock. I was still able to do it. It just was it needed to be more finicky. And I want to be upfront and tell you that. So that was interesting. Yet it wasn't a problem on any of my other paper. So let me show you project number 1, because project number 1 is for my shabby folks. And this card this was so much fun to make. Now, unfortunately on my camera, you're not going to be able to see it. But behind here is this white on white, jewel toned, beautiful tool that just gives like a little shine when you look at the card. But unfortunately, my camera, as good as it is, and it's much better than my old one, you really can't see that beautiful glimmer on it. But in person, you just gotta trust that it's there. Okay, so clearly this is the die cut. Now, I could have cut this out either 3 or 4 times, or I could have cut it out and on a thicker cardstock for underneath and made it super dimensional. But I knew that I didn't want to, because I knew I was building this, and too much dimension just competes with each other. But what I did do, and you can see on here, is that I ink blended this. So this is actually 3 different colors. So the base is 3 different colors. And I'm going to show you what I mean. When I was doing it, I did it in something called a prep box. So you can see the 3 colors there. And that's actually how I got an idea for something else, which I'm going to share with you. So here it is again. And what I did basically was I took 3 colors of the Wendy Vecchi blendable inks. I took the sky blue, the pink peony, which is this really pretty pink, and the garden patina. And then using one of these little blending brushes, which I'm mad crazy about, I built up all different intensities of color. So you can see the top is like darker, and then it goes to the lighter blue, and then to the pink. And I did it a couple of times so that it actually has great color saturation. So after I did that, that was on a very pale blue cardstock to give it a little bit of tone underneath, but you could have done it on white cardstock too. It would have come out just as well. I know, because I tested that after too. Okay, so after I die cut it out and then I ink blended all of it, then what I did was I built up all of these, and these are a blend of all different flowers. They're Little Birdie, they're Prima, they're all sorts of flowers. And then this is that little Rosie's butterfly. See what I mean, folks? It's not too small and it's not too big. Sometimes my Sussex one, which I love, or my Spellbinders one, is a little too large when we're doing cards or when we're doing tags. But I love this Rosie's one because it's a perfect size. But I have to tell you, I give Inlovearts props for this die, because I'm going to show you how else I used it. I mean, all right, so, and here I have little gemmies, and I just attached a sentiment that says, my happy place. And this was, you know, because this was a die that I specifically hauled from Inlovearts for my shabby folks, the first project had to be shabby. And you see, I tilted it this way when I built this because I liked the way that looked. All right, so that's number 1, project number 1, and that's a card that you can make with this die. Well, what else can you make with this die? Well, I started to think about it and look at it. And so my next idea was to make a clean and simple tag ATC tag. And this was so much fun to make. So again, look what I did. I took the die, I tilted it because I wanted to play around with it and see how like which way I liked it. I die cut it out of my super thick holographic over 300 GSM paper. So that's really hard to cut through. Some of my dies won't even cut through it if I do it 4 or 5 times. This one, look at it folks, it cut it out. Now I had an option, which I loved with this. So if I wanted to poke it out like I wanted to for the edges, I did. But if I just wanted to leave it embossed, I could do that. So I love this. And so I did the frame, then I cut out the center. I could have left it, and that's the other bonus, folks. Each of these centers, you keep them because they're great for layering pieces. They're like an extra bonus piece. But in this one, I popped it out. I put in some acetate, and those are some Easter sequins. So there's a bunny and some eggs, and just I picked up like colors of green and yellow in here. And then on the corners, I just added a couple of flowers, very small flowers. And then I die cut out of my Easter paper pad from Michael's in the perfect colors. Like it's exactly the coordinating colors. It's green and pink and yellow. I cut out one of the those little butterflies and I really glittered it up, but you can't see. And then I attached a jump ring to the top to make it a cute little like tag ATC. And I attached this holographic sequiny and yellow rickrack. And then on the back, I took a cut apart from the Michael's Easter pad and I created a pocket and it says Happy Easter. And then I just tucked in a little one of those Tim Holtz bunnies and that's where I put some and there's another card inside with my information. So there it is, folks. So there you have the exact same die, only this time it's clean and simple. It's not at all shabby. And see, and look how it became a tag. So if you are a shabby maker, folks, you can create a beautiful tag with this. It doesn't just have to be used for, so take a look again. So project 1, we have our traditional shabby card. Project 2, a clean and simple ATC tag, right? Which tells you can make both an ATC with this and a tag. And this one happens to be a little shaker. What else can this die do? I told y'all, I love dies that do different things. So then I die cut it out in my very, very fussy thin foil blue paper. And I'll be honest, folks, I love this paper, I do, but it is fussy and often the die tears. So this is a great test to give any die because if I can cut it out with this, then it's going to be okay. Well, you did have to be careful. You did, but I didn't have to do it twice. This is the first time I did it. And as you can see, I folded it over, the die over, and I used it to make a cute little bag topper. So what this now becomes is like a doily in the way we use a doily. So that's a third use. So as you can see, I used it. I just did a quick scallop on the bottom up. To be honest, a piece from that Easter Michael's pad that I don't care for. That's why I was thinking, how can I make this piece better so I use it? You know how Susan Tootsie Tucker says, if you don't like a page in the paper pad, don't buy it. Well, I can't find any Easter collections I like. This was probably the one of the few where I could sort of live with a lot of it, but I really didn't care for this page. So I was like, how am I going to use it? Well, I took this die, I cut it out of blue foil paper. That's finicky, but I like the color. And all of a sudden I could live with this paper. And then I attached a large blue flower that picks up on the blue and yellow that picks up on the yellow in here. And I glittered up the flower, and then there's another soft pink flower, and I turn it into a bag topper. All right, so now we've got 3 uses out of this die. We've got it as a card base, a bag topper doily, and a clean and simple ATC, either tag or ATC. That's 3 things out of 1 die. But let me tell you what I figured out. When I was doing the ink staining for the background for this card, I noticed, there's my little washi, there's my board where I made it. Look at that gorgeous stencil it made. So I said, wait a second, I can use this as a stencil. So I die cut it out of some cardstock, some 110 pound cardstock. You can see I washied it down with a little piece of washi tape. And I used it as the base for this decorated policy envelope. Now, I'm not done decorating this yet, but since I'm going to finish decorating it, I wanted to show you how well that worked as a stencil. Look at that. Yeah. So out of a 110-pound cardstock, I didn't even have to use any of my acetate. If I'd used my acetate, it would have made a perfect stencil. But I didn't want to waste my acetate. So I just thought, well, check it out, see what happens. Because when I did the actual staining on here, look how perfect it came out. Well, folks, I was able to go back and even build up color. So you can also use it as a stencil for making bases of either, like I'm going to make a policy envelope out of this. Clearly it's a policy envelope and I'm going to decorate the heck out of it and do a whole bunch of neat things, but I use it as the base pattern. So that is 4 ways to use this die, right? For stenciling, to make a beautiful shabby card, to make a clean and simple ATC, or a tag, or as a doily for a bag topper. I think this die is phenomenal. I really do. I told you all earlier, I knew I was going to love this die when I saw how it was designed. I knew that it was going to be super versatile. Again, right now they're having a sale, so this is super inexpensive. And I couldn't believe it also came with the book piece. So that's a bonus. You got book corners with this as well. So I'm going to put a link to it down below. If you love these projects, by all means grab yourself one. I am fussy about fussy dies. I told you all about 6 months ago, I thought it was me. I thought that I couldn't cut out a fussy die. No, it depends on the die. The die matters. And that's why I told you earlier today what I didn't like about the die I hauled is I could already tell that the divots weren't well designed. Whereas this one cuts nice and cleanly, even through my 300 GSM. So I'm impressed, folks. And I told you the only time I ran into trouble was with, I think it was the wax coating on the box, which is interesting. I still got it out. It just was finicky. Whereas any of the others cut like a dream. So there you have it, y'all. I'm going to put the link for this down below. And this is project share number 2. If you have any questions at all about any of these projects or the die, feel free to ask. I'll do my best down below to answer your comments and your questions. And I still have a few more projects to share with you. I do. I mean, this design team package, because I got to choose it. I really chose dies for our community that I knew you all would be interested in or that you might want to use in your projects. So I have loved doing this. And I'm trying to do one share a day so that, you have that project to look forward to. And one design for each part of our community. Because, we got vintage, we have clean and simple, we have Maggie, we have shabby, So I did try to choose items that would match each element of our community. And today's shabby day. Except you see, it's not just for shabby makers. Isn't that amazing? I love a die that does more than one thing. All right, y'all. That's it for now. This is design team project number 2 for Inlovearts. I'll leave a link to Inlovearts down below and a link to this particular die. And again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. All right, y'all. Take real good care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.